We have to stop meeting like this.
Deku chuckled, smiling coyly at you. Staying silent at his attempt to rile you up, you refused to even look at him. No, you kept your eyes firmly on the villain's lackeys, watching as they rounded up your fellow civilians and the remaining police officers. They were being directed into a corner, forced to squish together while Deku's goons pointed their guns at all of them. You, on the other hand, had been brought right to the desk Deku had sat on top of, forced down in the chair while he watched you greedily.
Come on.
Deku practically whined.
Didn't you miss me? I missed you.
Forcing yourself to turn your gaze towards him, you saw the predatory hunger shining in his green eyes as he leaned down towards you. Even though having such a hunger directed at you was not a pleasant experience, you might have stayed quiet. If Deku's eyes hadn't started sliding to the hostages. There would be no forgiving yourself if you helped direct the villain's wrath towards innocent people, so you gave him what he wanted. I didn't think you'd had the chance to miss me, considering how you've been stalking me. You snapped back, determining that if you had to speak to Deku, you would at least refuse to play into his delusions. Deku simply continued to smile at your harsh words, though, his grin growing even wider, and, to your utter shock, a light blush coloring his face. Those small changes, ones you had seen countless times with other people, should have made Deku appear at least slightly less frightening. They were so ordinary, after all, so human. But when you saw Deku's smile stretch further and red rush to his cheeks, his unabashed excitement only set you more on edge.
What can I say? I just couldn't stay away. As much as I enjoyed getting to know you in that way, it could only keep me happy for so long. I figured it was about time we had another date.
Date?
Mm-hmm.
Deku hummed, grasping your chin firmly in his hand.
And I have to say, you picked the perfect place for it. I had been meaning to drop by this police department for ages to see how their investigation into my organization was going. But you know how things tend to pile up. You gave me the perfect motivation, though.
What do you want? You asked, trying your best to get out of Deku's grip. He only gripped your chin tighter, though, a wicked look flickering in his eyes.
I told you, I want to spend some time with you. Our first date went so well, I just had to have another. And I suppose,
you ground out,
that my opinion didn't matter? Well, I remembered how shy you were when we first met, so I figured it'd be best to surprise you. I didn't want you getting cold feet after all.
Deku cooed in an exaggeratedly comforting manner. All of a sudden he slipped off of the desk, apparently deciding that you would make a better seat. Straddling you, Deku finally removed his hand from your chin and instead weaved his fingers into your hair. He was gentle at first, just taking a moment to enjoy having you so vulnerable beneath him, but soon pulled on your hair, jerking you closer to him.
I guess it wasn't enough though, was it?
Deku suddenly growled in your ear.
'Cause you still decided to go to the police. You have no idea how disappointed I was when I realized you were about to go to the cops. You were stalking me. What did you think I was going to do?
You hissed at him. It was true, Ever since that day Deku robbed the bank that you worked at, he had been watching you. Every day for the past week, you had come home to a blood-red rose on your bed. But yesterday it hadn't been simply a rose. Pictures of you going to work, running errands, meeting with your friends, they all had been laid on your bed. Those pictures were what helped you finally decide to go to the police. As before, you thought that the roses alone wouldn't be enough to convince them that they needed to get involved. But apparently, you didn't move quickly enough.
I thought that you would be smarter than that.
Deku spat angrily. Abruptly, though, his scowl transformed into an understanding smile. His green eyes going from stormy to practically adoring.
Don't worry though, sweetheart. I've already forgiven you. It's not your fault after all. It's not?
You murmured, Deku's constant mood swings making you all the more frightened.
No, of course not.
Deku reassured you patronizingly, stroking your cheek softly with his free hand. His eyes scanned the precinct, narrowing when they landed on the civilians and police officers.
It's their fault. It's all of society's fault. They've lied to you your whole life, lying about what's evil and what's good. They lied to me too, but I realized the truth, and I can teach it to you.
You were speechless, struck silent by the details of his delusions. He had spoken with such genuine hurt, such raw conviction. Anything you might have said in response was stuck in your throat, leaving you to stare at Deku with wide eyes. It was then that he turned his gaze from the hostages and back to you, that adoring hunger back in his eyes. Before you could protest, Deku pressed his forehead against yours, taking a moment to breathe you in. Feeling your breaths dance across his lips was too much for him though, and so he met your mouth with his. His kiss was surprisingly soft for such a notorious villain. You thought distantly, his lips moving gently against yours. Deku quickly grew more passionate though, needing to taste you as much as he could. His lips burned against yours with a need you had never experienced before. So it was no wonder that you failed to notice the syringe he was bringing to your neck. Even when you felt the pinch and the growing haze in your head, Deku continued kissing you, his mouth smiling against yours, when you finally fell unconscious.